decorations on the tablecloth, and a handwritten letter, oh, that's fading art. It says, to my dearest.
Look at letter number 7. Red Cross, roll call, join. None of the other letters, previous letters, had that, so I wanted to make sure to point that out. And welcome to letter 7. I hope this is not your first time watching one of these letters, because now is not the time to come in. You definitely want to go watch letters 1 through 6 and the introduction. Alright guys, the last letter. You know there was trouble in paradise in the last letter. Now, something else I want to point out. Never has there been such a gap in his letters. So this letter is dated almost a month, 3 weeks later than the last letter. And it doesn't sound like we're missing a letter. So something happened. Well, we know what happened, but let's just get to the letter, okay? Darling Edith May, the last letter we found out what her middle name was. So I'm going to stop right there. I read these letters as they're written, so if a word is left out or something doesn't make sense, it's not me, it's the writer. So did think it about time you heard from me. I won't answer your last one. Okay, obviously he didn't like her last letter because he's not going to answer to that one. Because I want to forget all about the last argument. I hope it doesn't come up again. One good thing, though, is that I found out to some extent how you really feel toward me. Don't mean what I mean. I can't talk. Did you ever feel so full of joy over something that you couldn't talk? If you have, you know how I feel now. No, I didn't get that way by reading your last letter, but got it from the night we had our last argument. You know, the Saturday night on which we saw the Phantom of the Opera. Well, how did you get home last night, and what was said when you got home? When I told my mother I had seen you, she thought that we had fixed that up over the phone the night before. I couldn't make her believe that we hadn't. I hope your dad liked the records. What does your mother say about them? Did you get your car back yet? I dreamt that you had last night. It was queer, an awful mix-up. Instead of it being a good job on the coal, it was a terrible job on an old Detroit electric car. It was built like a Franklin. I will tell you about it Saturday night when we haven't anything else to talk about. I have had another one of my wonderful headaches all morning, so decided to write and try and forget it. Tried eating some candy also, but to no advantage. It may go away when I take a smoke this noon. Had a very boring time last night over at Bev's. He is a worser than the worst sap I have ever seen. Even yet, much worser than you and I. That is sure going some. Don't you think? Well, it is time now for me to think of going to lunch. I will call you up Friday night about 5:30 p.m. Answer this missile? Answer this missile soon, please. I can't wait. Very impatient. Yours truly, XXX. We're back to the X's. Oh my gosh, so they made up. So sometime during the last 3 weeks, although it sounds really recently, they made up. Whew, that's a relief. He talks about their last argument being the night they went to Phantom of the Opera. So we know that they were in like reconciliation since they were still spending some time together. I'm gonna show you something that really got me thinking. See how he has underlined my as in my mother? We know that evidently her mother is not fond of him. So he's saying, when I told my mother, it's almost like he's insinuating that, of course, he told his mother they went out. but it makes it sound like she didn't tell her mother. And how did you get home? So obviously he didn't bring her home. Now, he gave some records to her father. So really thinking that obviously the father doesn't think quite as less of him as the mother does. And he was really curious to know what her mother had said about him giving the dad some records. So he really did use the word worser than worse, and called him a sap. You know, we never use the word really sap here anymore. So it's one of the reasons I like reading these types of letters, is to hear how they used to talk and things that we're familiar with, but we've just kind of forgotten about because we just don't use those words. But, you know, a worser sap than worse. I don't know. I just love that phrase for some reason. I am so pumped that he mentions vehicles. Like, that just brings in their time. So I like the whole love letter part. I like to do this with you and I can't wait to have this date with you. But when they actually mention like going to the Phantom of the Opera, or you know, the coal, did she get her car back, the coal. So you know, I was like, I've never heard of a coal automobile before, so I had to look it up. So it's Cole Motor Company, and they made vehicles from 1908 to 1925. So it's not really a long time that they made these vehicles, that these vehicles were in production. But they were like quality built luxury vehicles. So this may say what her family's financial status was, because he makes it sound like she has a coal, because he said he had the dream, and instead of it being a coal, it was an old Detroit electric car. Like, that's what was happening in the dream. Like they were working on an old electric Detroit car. Is that what it? Yeah. Instead of her coal. And Franklin's were only built from 02 to 34. And what was interesting about a Franklin is that they were air cooled instead of water cooled. I love the fact that some of his letters give me the opportunity to research things. I love to research. I thrive on researching and finding answers or just information. So the fact that he mentioned those three vehicles gave me that opportunity, like I said, to research them and actually bring you pictures in this video. Kind of like the whole magazine in one of the past videos. Some of you have commented in previous videos about all the headaches that he seems to get, and he talks about not every letter, but almost every letter about having a headache. So it seems like he has a headache almost every day. Now this one was interesting because he said he tried to eat candy to make it go away, which obviously means it's something he's done in the past that maybe relieves it. And then he talked about, well, maybe my smoke will make it go away at noon. So it could be that he's just having these headaches while he's at work because he has to go, you know, all those hours without a cigarette. Maybe it's from that, but maybe it's an underlying condition. So hopefully, as we keep reading the letters, we will find out more information about his health. And as we already know, he is extremely impatient, and now he actually admits to the fact that he is very impatient. We've noticed that in the past that he evidently responds and writes more letters than she does. It takes her a little bit longer to respond, and that kind of, you know, that kind of gets under his fingernails. He's, like you said, very impatient, and he wants obviously more letters, and he wants the letters more frequently than what she gives him. I might not show it in these videos, but I am actually ecstatic that I am able to bring these letters to you guys. The fact that these letters have been rescued and were not like thrown away, just, it just keeps my heart in one piece, because the thought of so many older love letters that have just disappeared, been thrown away, lost, damaged, whatever, it's heartbreaking. Because back then they wrote a lot. You didn't have email, you didn't have the easy convenience of the telephone we have now, especially like cell phones. So even though they do call, calling was a lot different back then. Like, I even remember in the 80s, I can remember, well, I'll say late 70s. Yeah, it's probably the late 70s, early 80s. In my neighborhood, I didn't grow up in a big city. I grew up in a small town. And I can actually remember sometimes getting on the phone and hearing the neighbors on their telephone. I kid you not. That makes me feel so old, but I actually do remember that a couple times. Like party lines is what they were called. So if you remember something like that, please comment below. I would love to hear if these letters are bringing back any memories to you guys, because I don't know. I'm sure there's a variety of ages of people that are watching. And if you're a younger person and some of this stuff doesn't make sense, please comment below. Ask some questions. I'd love to hear what the younger generation thinks of these letters. I hope you hit that subscribe button and the bell notification button so that I know that you're going to be around for letter number 8. And until the next letter.